Frank's Red Hot is the perfect blend of flavor and heat, so you can use an entire bottle to make recipes like buffalo chicken dip or buffalo nachos, or even things that don't start with buffalo. Frank's Red Hot, I put that on everything.
Holy shit, Craig.
Hey Jeff, well that since we're recording so far after the game, I appreciate
that
your
doesn't even matter. This is like
I appreciate your feigned
still.
enthusiasm.
Dude, like it's okay. I mean, it's Wednesday night, and still, I'm just like, holy shit! I still can't believe that happened. I'm sitting here staring at the stat sheet at the box score, and I'm like, I still can't believe that we won by 2 touchdowns, and it wasn't even that close. Like.
Yeah.
By the way, Arizona State ends up outgaining us, right?
Well,
like yards per play. I know. But still, yards per play were about that. I mean, just like, it still sort of blows my mind. Like this whole situation is kind of like I said, yeah, blowing my mind a little bit.
Well, this is Podcast versus Everyone. I'm Craig Powers. This is episode... You got it up there? Shoot, I have other stuff up.
144.
Episode 144. I had to close some tabs. This is episode 144. We're here to talk about, I'm Craig Powers. With me is Jeff Nusser. And we're here to talk about another WSU win. The fifth one this year.
Against all odds.
Another perplexing WSU win that we did not see coming. Again, the most... difficult to pin down team like I've ever had to pay this close of attention to. So it's just it's nuts. Like it definitely at the start when they get out to 14-0, Arizona's turned the ball over 3 times. You're like, well, they've scored 2. They blew 1 chance, but they scored 2.
Yep.
And so, you can't really be too mad about it. But then you're thinking, okay, we were up 14 nothing against USC. We had big league against Oregon last year. We had, there's all these games where they've had a leader. The Utah game last year. There's all these games where they've had a big lead that are not too far in the distant memory that they blew. And it probably wasn't until... they got to 28-0, and then of course ASU answers right away. But the 28-0, you kind of started feeling a little better. That still isn't at our we said 38 points or whatever it needs to be.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's just crazy to start a game, 3 turnovers, then a turnover on downs, then a missed field goal after a false start on a made field goal. That was just absolutely everything going WSU's way. And they took advantage of it. The offense took advantage of it, and they built a huge lead. And then they really just played protection in the second half. They just protected the lead, and they did a fine job of it. It doesn't look as pretty at the end, but still it's a 13-point win over a team that was favored by between 15 and 17 points, depending on where you were looking, which that's just bonkers. 28-point, 30-point turnaround from the spread is crazy. You don't see that happen very often. It's and then even some of the analytical things we looked at, it was the spread was pretty similar, and just it was great to see the offense play really well, because it wasn't just that they were getting short fields and scoring. They scored on some long drives in the first half as well, and they were getting big plays. the run and shoot was looking like the run and shoot. There's definitely one play I want to talk about in particular there. But overall, man, what a blast. Like, how fun to just beat the crap out of a good team on the road that we honestly did not think not many people thought they were going to win, maybe outside of themselves. And they just went down and smacked someone around, and that was pretty awesome.
There was every reason to think that they would get beat pretty handily, right? Like, you looked at things like, the Arizona State was coming off a bye. We're obviously dealing with what we're dealing with the coaching situation. There was just sort of every reason in the world. We playing at Arizona State. Tempe is a place where we typically don't play all that well. But, oh, by the way, like, now all of a sudden we've won like 2 of our last 3 games there or something. So now it's like, I don't know, maybe we can win.
Oh, no,
in Tempe.
Jeff, they hadn't won in Tempe since 2016, which they reminded of us a million times.
Yeah.
It's like, yes, they won in 2016. They played 1 game since then in 2019, and they lost that one.
Yeah.
So
barely.
Barely.
That's like, what was crazy, right?
It's like someone comes up with that stat, and it has it's not really a stat. It's just a fact, but it has like no context whatsoever. Like, yeah, they haven't beaten, but now actually they've won, like you said, 2 of their last 3 games in Tempe. and
really
barely
should
lost the other one. Really
ought to be on a 3-game win streak. That last loss in Tempe was, we don't need to rehash that, but it's like, felt like, we definitely should have won that one too. So it's like, yeah, all of a sudden, apparently we can win in Tempe now. So yeah, I mean, just there was every reason to think that they wouldn't do well. I mean, you and I both predicted losses, and after the game, we got our comeuppance, right, with the gifts, the "you're an idiot" gifts, which made me so happy. I had to run out the door literally as like the clock hit 0. I finished the recap, pushed publish, and ran out the door. So later on, when I turned my phone back on, I was doing a family thing. And like my Twitter was full of those gifts, and that made me smile, made me happy. It reminded me of that good feeling.
Well, yeah, I had to, I watched the second half on DVR, and I knew it was 28-7 when we went to get our little family photos taken, and then I get back, and it's pretty far. It was in the same place. One of Amanda's best friends was also there with her family getting them taken. She's the one that told us about it. They were like the spot after us. So they were talking, and I think Amanda really they all wanted to go get lunch or something, but Amanda's just like, Craig wants to go watch a football game. And so, I was like, well, yeah. And then I had to the radio was on 710 when I turned the car on, but it was like the game was still going when I got in the car. Like, it was towards the end, so I was like, and I turned it off.
You're like, oh shit!
And then I realized that I had left it on FS1 when I turned the TV off, so it was going to be on that when I turned it on. So I had Amanda go in and change the channel for me, so I could just.
I've
get
done
to
that
the
before,
DVR
where
recording.
I hold up my hand where I know that the score is going to be, so that I can turn the TV on and then try to rewind or something. Yeah. That's so I luckily she took care of that for me, and so I just fast forward. Good partner.
What a good partner. And so I fast forward through the second half and all that stuff, because really there wasn't a lot of action going on. WSU was just getting a few nice runs here and there, just really just trying to burn clock as much as they could. And they had, one drive in particular where they were able to do that. A couple in the fourth quarter. They did a really good job in the fourth quarter. They churned about 10 minutes off the clock, and almost 10 minutes off the clock in the fourth quarter.
That one drive that you're talking about is the drive of the season, and all it got was a field goal because it covered 42 yards in 11 plays, and took 6 minutes and 23 damn seconds to go 40 damn yards. It was the greatest thing. It was, it just that whole second half. I mean, I wasn't waiting for the collapse, but I just was kind of waiting for
It's to
something.
get tight.
I'm like, yeah, I'm like, if we're not scoring any points, Arizona State's got a really good offense. Like, it's like something is going to happen, right? And it never did, really, right? Except for a couple of garbage time, touchdowns. So it's like, it just is like, I don't know, man. That drive was what really made it just feel like, okay, this game is over. I mean, I know I mentioned the yards per play. Obviously, that kind of tamped down the yards per play. I mean, our last 3 drives all ended in field goals. It was
the whole second half they weren't really trying that hard
Not really.
to run the offense.
Nope. And which at first it felt like, okay, maybe we're pushing our luck a little bit, right?
Yeah.
That, we're not being more aggressive. We're not moving the ball, but the faith in the defense was. The faith in the defense was warranted.
They came out second half and just the offense wasn't doing anything. Yeah, so offense comes out, gets the ball first half, 3 and out, punt, and 2 more punts after that. What does ASU do with all that momentum from that touchdown right before the half?
Yeah,
they go punt, INT, punt, and then they only. 4 for 16, 6 for 20, 5 for 16, 3 for -7. So they weren't even getting, they were not even getting 4. Their best drive had 4 yards of play in those first 4 until the score got 34-7 and WSU went in prevent defense and just let ASU throw the ball around.
Right. And one of the touchdowns was off of a giant kickoff return that went all the way to WSU's 40. So they only had to cover 40 yards to get the touchdown. So, hooray, good for you. But like those first 4 drives, I mean, that's epic. You're talking, 10, 15, 18 plays, and they covered 32, 52, -7, 45 yards in their first 4 drives. That was it.
Like against an offense that has been very good because we can make a lot about the the interceptions, the fumbles, the turnovers, but when they can do that to a good offense, that's even more impressive because fumbles are a luck can often be a lucky endeavor. Obviously this team goes for strips, and that might be part of the reason why they miss so many damn tackles, but. And it did just hit the lottery with trying to strip the ball in this game. I mean, even they have ASU's 3rd fumble. It was, I think, caused by another ASU player. So, so they were just having all the fortune when it came to fumbles. When they can go through 4 straight drives and just put the game away with those drives while the offense is doing almost nothing. And
the first half was. I was going to say the first half was, I mean, if we want to go there, we can say the first half was a little fluky, right? Like, and not like in a derogatory, disparaging
the first 2
way.
drives.
Yeah. I mean, I'm not putting them down to say that it's fluky. I'm just saying fumble, interception. It's like, okay, so the interception was a great play and Arizona State was struggling to move the ball a little bit, but those first 2 fumbles, it's like, I mean, that doesn't happen very often, right? Yeah. I mean, it doesn't happen very often. So, okay. So you've got that. But in the second half though, I mean, there was just no arguing in the second half that that they were absolutely dominant. I mean, there was absolutely nothing at all fluky about what the defense did in the second half. To see them do that was honestly pretty shocking. I mean, cause look, I've been skeptical. I've been vocal about my skepticism about the defense the whole way. Right. I mean, I've said all sorts of stuff like, well, you can't count on fumbles. You can't, and by the way, the BYU game sort of proved that, right? Like in the sense that, look, if the other team is not going to give you anything, then the other team's not going to give you anything. BYU came into the game one of the best teams at taking care of the ball. They took care of the ball, and that was kind of a big difference in the game, right? But, the reality is most other teams don't do that well. And so, if you make it, apparently, if you make it an emphasis to go and try and, strip the ball and punch the ball out or whatever, you can get the ball on the ground a little bit more than you otherwise would. And, that's turned out to be, I don't know if it's like I said, a sustainable strategy, because the BYU game kind of shows you the limitations of it, but it is a viable strategy in terms of helping you out. And no doubt it helped him in this game. And the reality is that, look, I predicted 4 wins for this team back in August. And the main reason why, if anybody goes back and listens to that podcast, I don't know why you would, but if you did, you would hear me say the main reason why is, look, I expect some regression out of the offense. I don't think this is like a top 10 offense. I think this is maybe like a top 40 offense. Okay. So to balance that out, if we're going like, if we're talking like trying to go 6-6 or 7-5 or something, then the defense has to go from like the hundreds up to like 60, 70. It's got to jump way up there. And I just was skeptical that was possible. I didn't think the talent was that good, but I think what we're seeing is that the coaching staff was really, really smart in the way that they built the defense. They went after a ton of reinforcements in the secondary. Not that, the reinforcements in the secondary are all playing right now, but they're all there, and guys are just coming up big. They're developing. We knew Jalen Watson was good. That was a given, but Derek Langford at the other corner has really, really come along. Daniel Isom has turned into an incredibly steady safety. And then George Hicks, right, who is a converted corner, has been really, really good at the other safety spot. And then you've got Armani Marsh playing that nickel spot, and which has been like a position of strength for WSU when the defense has been good, whether it's Hunter Dale or somebody else, like that nickel or Shalom Luani played in that nickel spot. Like that's when they've been really good, is when they've had a really good nickel. And right now Armani Marsh looks like that. So, all the credit in the world to those guys. And then we keep talking about how small the defensive tackles are, and yet they just keep getting better, and they keep figuring out ways to stop potent running attacks. BYU, as much as we talked about the final result against BYU, the reality was that those numbers were skewed a little bit by that last drive. They did get leaned on in that last drive. That was the phrase that Dickert used. But before that, it was certainly in the, I don't know if I would call it it wasn't good, but maybe acceptable realm in terms of the run defense. Look, BYU only scores 21 points. So it's not like they got, explosively run over up and down the field. At this point, you have to say this is a good fucking defense. And it's a pretty good defense against the run. And that is not something I ever in a million years thought I would say. And it's the kind of thing that makes you think, when you're taking on, Oregon and Arizona and Washington to finish the year, 2 of those teams are teams that are pretty, power football type teams with Oregon and Washington. It makes you feel like, God forbid, and please forgive me, but makes you feel like you have actually a fucking chance, both against Oregon and against Washington. I can't believe I just said that.
Yeah. I'm still skeptical that they're good against the run. I don't really know about that.
Could we agree that they're at least not bad anymore?
They're not bad.
Not willing to go that far either.
They're not bad at times, but
okay,
they still will struggle because when teams you look at Oregon State just ripped them apart in the second half on the run. BYU effectively ended the game in the second half by running the ball. And maybe it's just more they struggle more against traditional run teams, and a team like ASU who isn't under center and pounding the ball. They're more of a zone read type running attack. Maybe they do better against those because those will more often go to the outside than not. And what we've seen is they're very good if they can if the play is stretched out. They're very good at that.
Yep.
And if
Lots
they
of
can
speed,
get in
they
that
rally
short
to the
yardage
ball.
situation,
Yep.
We talk about that turnover and downs on the third play. First, Poulet made a great play on a screen on the play before to force them into a 4th and 1.
Yep.
And the inside, the tackles get just enough push so that the running back decides to take it out, and that's where we're good. We have fast linebackers. That's where our talent is on the outside. We have fast defensive ends. So yeah, stretch that out against us all day, and that's where it really worked out. Maybe those traditional running attacks are really what get us. The under center pounding, because that's more like how BYU operated and more how Oregon State operates, and they were able to have a little more success. But ASU didn't. I mean, their top guy still went 19 for 89, so that's not like a terrible, like, you didn't have a terrible day. I think they definitely stopped Jaden Daniels more than I thought they would.
Yeah, he didn't do anything.
Yeah, he just had one.
He had one conversion.
He had one 70-yard touchdown that got called back as a hold, which also happened because there was a hold. It
happened because there was a hold for sure.
Yeah, but yeah, so maybe against a team like Oregon, that could be a positive. Because Oregon obviously does not go under center and hand the ball off. Yeah. I mean, UW does, but also UW isn't very good. So yes. They do not have the potency of a running game that BYU and Oregon State do. Yeah. So maybe they're not as scary. But yeah, it'll be interesting to see against Oregon, who isn't a better offense than Arizona State. Like they're maybe around the same at best. Yeah.
Their quarterback's not nearly as scary.
No.
As Daniels.
But yeah, I think they, like we've talked about this season, they have the ability to make big plays in the run game, and they've just been very good at timing those plays. They've stepped up. It's that fourth down magic we joke about, the third down magic. They come up with, or it's holding the run to 4 instead of 6 or 7 on first down, which they were able to do against ASU quite a bit. So yeah, maybe ASU was without their top running back. We have to say that as well. But so
would have stopped his ass too.
As we're like
Rashad White.
If only we had Deion McIntosh against BYU. 15th ranked BYU now, by the way.
I know.
Oh my God. 17 ranked Mississippi State. Yeah. Oh my God. So sorry, I get started thinking about that now. But yeah, so defensively, I think what sets it up often too, what kind of helps them be better against the run than maybe the talent that they have, is the fact that they are so talented in the back end, like you were describing. Yeah. That they can kind of trust those guys. I was kind of bummed. One of those touchdowns, I think it was the first half touchdown, like Watson kind of got beat, but I think he was expecting this Hicks to do a little bit better covering behind him.
Yeah, he kind of got turned around a little bit. It looked like he was kind of expecting something, and then it wasn't there, and then he was like, "Wait a second," and
but I don't want
that looked bad all around.
But I really want to talk about kind of the offense some more.
Yeah,
let's start. They ran the ball 42 times. Obviously, that was a function of the score as much as anything. Because Nakia Watson had 5 carries in this game, but also my freaking, apparently I've been taught, like, my computer just went to sleep, but it's back. But also it was like both Max and Dion had nice games, like in their own styles, and it was very much indicative of both. They're obviously they trust Dion more in short yardage, and they were able to lean on him for that. But Max, he did his thing. He had a few plays where he probably cut outside when he didn't need to, and he got tackled. and for a loss, but he also had some plays where he cut outside and he picked up huge gains. So it was cool to see both of the running backs have nice days, and both have a big impact on the game. And then Nakia Watson had basically 4 rushes for nothing, and then one really nice rush. So that was huge. It ended up taking an extra 2 minutes off the clock. I think it made ASU burn a few timeouts. So that was nice. But so 42 times running. I hope our fans don't take away that we need to run the ball more, because that was just wasting the clock out. That's always like, if we run the ball 30 times, we always win. It's like, those type of things they say in the NFL or whatever. Yeah. It's like, because you're running the ball because you have the lead. But really, it was really fun to watch the passing game, and particularly, again, getting big plays. And that was, we were wondering if they would be able to get big plays. They were not able to do it against BYU. Like they had been doing, but it was back. And, Delora dropped Delora, for all the accuracy struggles he's had, and he did, he had a few in this game too. Particularly one, he missed a touchdown pass to Ollie in the second half. But other than that, like, absolute dime to Travell Harris for the first touchdown, or his first passing touchdown, and then an amazing back shoulder throw to Calvin Jackson down the field later on that put him in a goal to go situation. Had some really nice throws, and then my favorite of all, which was the most run and shoot play you're ever gonna see, was the touchdown to make it 28-0 to Calvin Jackson.
Yep.
Where and what makes it so run and shoot is the adjustment that both quarterback and running back made, in that obviously Jaden was ready to throw the stop or the out. Like, you could see he was in full motion. But then they both saw that safety creep up. He took a step forward, and when you look at the replay, it's a very obvious step forward. He was looking for that pass. And Jackson saw it, and Jaden saw Jackson see it. And that's the run and shoot. You adjust, you have, it's all option routes, like, all the time. And so Jackson just broke it off, and Jaden kind of worked out that he couldn't get a ton on it, because it kind of put Jackson in this perfect spot to run, perfect on the run angle to score. And then, of course, Travell Harris celebrating instead of blocking, which was awesome.
Yeah. I don't know if he was celebrating. Like, it was kind of a half celebration, half just kind of get slightly in the way block, because that's all that was really necessary on that. But yeah, that was fun. The throw, I think it was maybe like a half an inch from being a disaster, because if Delora wasn't pump faking to get somebody out of the way, like, he was legitimately going to throw the ball.
Yeah.
And he stopped and was able to hold on to the ball. So that was great. And then he's all off balance, and he realizes, okay, he's, slipped back into this, this soft spot in the zone, and, floats it right in. Just a gorgeous little flick. I remain convinced that Delora is kind of at his best when he's not thinking at all, when he's just sort of on the move and making plays, and just kind of lets it fly in that way, and he doesn't have to think about his mechanics or anything. And because he just makes this, just like as you described, this great throw, and tremendous individual effort from Calvin Jackson, who is having an incredible season, and really had sort of the game of his life. Didn't have any of the drop issues that we saw the week before against BYU, and that have cropped up at various times this year. And then just the yards after the catch. I mean, it was one of the things you talked about is that the offense did it in multiple ways in this game, which I think is sort of the coolest part. Because I went through that first half, and I kept trying to be like, I mean, at some point you've been through enough as a Coug fan that you're just kind of waiting for the bad thing to happen, right? And I'm like, so we get to halftime, and I'm kind of looking at everything. I'm trying to think like, okay, what's the bad thing, right? When's the bad thing coming? And
well, we did remember did have the shovel pass interception.
Yes,
and
so that was the one.
The defense held for the missed field goal right
Yeah.
after that. So
yeah,
that you're like, huh, really?
Yeah. But the way the offense was going, like they were, they had short passes, they had some explosive passes, they had some short runs, they had some explosive runs, like they had some power running, they had some stretch running. Like it really was a varied offense. And let's just say it. Like Brian Smith was kind of under the gun as the offensive coordinator to like show that he could do this. And I don't know how you do much better than that. I mean, even the interception, it sure looked like DeLaura was expecting Borghi to kind of sit right behind the line, which would make sense on a shovel pass. Like that would make sense that that's where you would sit, and then you would take the ball upfield after you catch it. You wouldn't think you would be trying to catch a shovel pass on the run. Yeah. So the fact that Borghi kind of ran right through that and was kind of running almost to daylight, just like it never really made any sense. So the throw ended up behind him and guy intercepts it, whatever. So, but outside of that, basically, 4 touchdowns. I mean, that's, I don't know. I don't know how you do a whole lot better than that, than 4 touchdowns and a half, and doing it the way they did it. So
it's almost a bummer that from an offensive perspective that they had such a big lead in the second half, because it would have been kind of fun to see what they could have put on ASU, because they really were not trying very hard to score in the second half. Like they were looking to especially when it got about midway through the third quarter and ASU hadn't scored again, then it was really hold on time and let's churn some clock. And they really started leaning on the run and short passes, things like that. And so it might have been fun to see if they could have, put up, see what, because the offensive numbers don't look amazing. Although 400 yards, given how they were just running the ball a bunch in the second half, is pretty impressive. Yeah. And still 5.8 yards of play when the defense knew what you're going to be doing for an entire quarter is good. And so but yeah, it's just fun that the offense has made such big strides this season from where they started, and a lot of that's due to Jaden's, and we talk about this a lot, but a lot of that's due to Jaden's kind of, say maturation, but just really kind of mastery. I think that's
a
good word.
That is a good word.
Yeah, he's getting better at a lot of the little things, and then that's like, his footwork still needs work, but he's getting better at it, and that's leading to results. He's making smarter decisions. Because like you said, I don't put that interception on him at all. He was supposed to do that, and I don't think Borghi was in the right spot, honestly. But yeah, just to see him finally like hit on some throws that maybe he's missed in previous games, and kind of make that run and shoot play. We talked about when Garantano was playing against Utah, and the nail in the coffin, the play of the game was Utah State's pick 6, where it was that pretty much same route combination, that same option route that Jackson ran. He was running either kind of a quick out, or he was going to turn it upfield, depending on what the defender did. And against Utah, he did the same thing. He saw the defender was playing for the out, and he went up. But Garantano wasn't on that same page. Here we see what happens when the quarterback is able to react the same way as the receiver. I mean, you get a touchdown and you get big plays. So I'm hoping that that's just like the start of something, and it just feels like this offense is just getting better and better. And there was maybe a little down against BYU. We know that was kind of driven by the possessions, but also, you kind of were hoping they do a little bit better against a bad BYU defense. But sometimes there's a lot to, obviously they were down half their offensive staff, whatever. But now once they got, some guys back, Brian Smith is, he's all on his own for the second week. It just looks it looks really good again. And it looks like, again, that they're making progress. And that makes you feel better about the last 3, hopefully 4 games down the stretch here. And, and obviously they have everything in front of them at this point. And because now the defense, like you said earlier, the defense is better than it was last year. The offense was much worse. Now the offense is playing much better, and it's playing more like a top 30-ish offense versus kind of the top 90-ish offense, 100-ish offense that they were before. And so that just makes I feel very positive about what they can do with Jaden just playing better, with the backfield healthy, with Deshaun Stribling makes plays when he gets the ball. Lincoln Victor didn't see it much, but we've seen him make plays. Hobart didn't play much in this game. I think I saw him on the hands team, but he didn't get a target, I don't think. So they have some talent that didn't even get much run in that game, and they still put up some nice numbers. So I'm feeling very good about this offense, and they have obviously a huge set of games coming up, and I feel like they're gonna put up points now. They're gonna put up some points.
Yeah, I mean, I don't see any reason to think that any of the last 3 games are not winnable, right? I mean, Oregon's good. Don't get me wrong, and I'm, in a week, I probably will pick Oregon to win. But it's not like I look at it and go, no chance, and then Arizona, obviously that's, that's its own thing. My only concern about that is that the team gets over their skis and takes them lightly on a Friday night, because we all know what kind of crazy shit happens on Fridays.
After a big game in Eugene and
exactly
short turnaround
with the Apple Cup the next week.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean all of that, but Washington's not good. So it's like, again, you look at these last 3 games and you go, yeah, I mean, do we dare to dream about a Pac-12 North championship? I mean, on one of the threads today, Jesse Casino, our resident coach, was talking about how we could win the North at 7-5 overall if things break sort of the right way, because we have a chance essentially to own the tiebreakers on the people that we play. So and how we could actually have the North. It's not that far fetched to think we could have the North wrapped up before the Apple Cup. It's like, and I don't know, I don't think any of this stuff is actually gonna happen, but it's also sort of mind blowing that we would consider it, because if we sit there and go, I think that most people, when we looked at our staff predictions back in August, now I don't have them in front of me, so I might just be talking out of my ass, but it certainly seemed like the people who had high hopes for the season, and we're talking 7 or 8 wins, that was kind of at the top end of people's predictions, people who were optimistic. Those really hinged on essentially winning all 3 of your non-conference games, and then going on and winning 4 Pac-12 games. Well, here we are. It's like they won 1 non-conference game. They've already won 4 Pac-12 games with 3 Pac-12 games to go. They're 4-2 in the Pac-12. You could not have convinced me there was a scenario where they went 4-2 in the Pac-12. Now, is the Pac-12 down this year?
2 of the wins coming on the road at Cal and Tempe.
Yes, right. 2 places where we always shit ourselves. So this is how it's going down. It blows my mind. There's no reasonable, plausible scenario on which I thought they could be 4-2 in the conference at this point. And it's so awesome and so cool that they are. It's so much fun. I'm so happy for the players to be able to, as disappointed as I was, we talked about this, as disappointed as we were after BYU. I'm equally happy for him now. I know that there was a huge contingent of Cougar fans in Tempe, which makes sense. People want to go to Arizona in November, so or October. I guess it was October still, but they want to go down to Arizona when it's cold up here. So they did, and I mean Jack Ellis, our photographer, took a photo down there that literally made it look like a WSU home game. Like the number of WSU fans was so thick in one area of the stadium that it looked like it might as well have been at home. So yeah, I'm sure the guys love that. Really cool for them to go down there and celebrate. Arizona State looked like we expected our team to look, like maybe a little tired, maybe a little weary, maybe just a little flat, after everything that WSU has been through. And it's crazy that ASU is the team. Now, they've been through their own stuff. Like, we didn't really talk much about that, but I mean, they've been through their own shit with they've had coaches put on leave, and they've got, potential NCAA penalties hanging over them. And they've got you think our recruiting class is bad? They've got like almost no recruits at all. So there's just kind of a pall over the program. And then also you kind of maybe got just a tiny little bit of a look behind the curtain when Herm Edwards comes out after the game and basically blames his players. Like that sort of thing maybe tells you that things aren't maybe so great behind the scenes. Cause Mike Leach was famous for his first couple of years, maybe airing some guys out. And I didn't know if the criticism of that was always, fair, but I will say this, that sort of stuff kind of went away the last 5-6 years. As the players turned over and as he got his guys and as the program culture got into place and everything, we didn't hear so much about, guys being soft or whatever that he kind of got into. And so I guess what I'm saying is, like, those first couple of years when Leach was talking like that, it was an indicator that maybe, things were not okay. Right. And as it turned out, they really weren't okay. So then I look at what Herm Edwards said and I go, are things maybe not okay down at Arizona State? Maybe the problems run a little deeper and a little wider than maybe we realize at this point. So, awesome for our guys to be able to go down there and do that. I was so happy for them. It was so much fun to watch. All I could do was laugh in the first half. I couldn't really believe what I was seeing. And, I hope these guys, finish strong, man. Because this has been too much fun. Now that we've got, the Rolovich stuff behind us, I think what we see is that it's definitely, it's the players, and it's always been the players. It's why Rolovich's complaints about, oh man, last year, I don't know if we would have been tough enough to win this game. It's why I always thought that was a bunch of bullshit, because these players are tough. And they've always been tough, and it's always been, all the coaches always have had to do is put them in a position to do what they do. And that's what they're showing right now. So I didn't write a Monday after this week because Halloween on Sunday, and you and I went to the Sounders on Monday, and I just went, you know what, forget it. But if I had written it, like I kind of had a skeleton outline, that's what it was going to be about. It was going to be, man, it is the players. It's always been the players, and these guys are special, and they deserve really, coaches get a lot of credit. They get too much credit. A lot of times, these guys are the ones that deserve the credit, man, because they are fighting like crazy, and it really is truly remarkable what they continue to do in the face of really tremendous adversity.
Yeah, and it was such a bummer, to see them lose against BYU, and it very clearly affected them. It was real tough. They had such a tough week, but it's so cool to see them go down and get this win. And you don't hear, and one thing I liked, that I heard from Dicker, which is they don't, he said they don't play into the underdog stuff because they want to feel like they can win every game. Right. So, and I feel like that's more him feeding off the players than necessarily him saying the tone, cause that's what you feel like these players genuinely believe is that they can beat anyone. And they pretty
not
much
just that they can, but
Saturday.
that they should. Like, I think they think they should. They're like, we're as good as them. What are you talking about?
Yeah, and you just see players on the team, guys like Jaden DeLora, Calvin Jackson, Travell Harris, guys like Brennan Jackson and RJ Stone and Jalen Watson, who just have this supreme confidence in themselves, and they have a supreme confidence in what their teammates can do. And I think it's having a great effect. And yeah, when you go, and again, like you said, it just makes some of the previous comments sound like bullshit, but it's just these guys, they're really fun to root for. They deserve it all. And I hope they go out there and they keep winning. Because one, I'm very selfish about it. Of course, I super enjoy that. But also, these guys, I just want them to win everything. And it would be one hell of a thing if they went out and won something cool in this season of all seasons.
Yes, it would. Yes, it would.
Nothing like getting a big win and then going to a bye week so you can and then being in this sort of a position where it's like, yeah, because now WSU controls its own destiny for the Rose Bowl. So we get to sit and think about how cool that is and believe in that for like an extra week, like without any possibility of it being taken away from us. And we can build up, we can beat Oregon, all this stuff for a couple weeks. And when we meet Oregon in 2 weeks, we're going to be in the same position. So that, even though that game they have a game between, we will be in the same position in that if WSU wins its remaining games, it'll be in the Pac-12 championship game, and it will be with a chance to go to the Rose Bowl. So, which if you told me that would be the case on November 13th, I would have thought you were crazy. So, but that will be the case on the morning of November 13th. WSU will be in a position to win their remaining games and go go to the Rose Bowl. So, so this is fun. This is fun. Yeah. This is great. This is so much more fun than the beginning of the fucking season and talking about if your coach is vaccinated or not. So I'm glad he's gone. I'm glad we can just talk about the goddamn football. Woohoo!
That's right. That's absolutely right.
All right. Well, how about on that note, let's take a break, and then we'll come back and talk about more sports.
Back.
So Jeff.
Yes.
Obviously I didn't go to Pretty Fair Beer this weekend because I didn't drive anywhere. I didn't drive to the east side of the state.
True.
But I kind of was feeling like maybe I should have, because they got some good beers going right now.
Guess who is going to Pretty Fair Beer this weekend? Breaking news on the podcast. This guy.
Max Borghi? Oh, no.
No.
Okay.
This guy.
Oh, okay.
Got 2 thumbs, and he's pointing them right at his chest right now. So I am excited to hear about the lineup that you're about to tell me about because I'm going to go drink some of it this weekend.
Right now, I got to say, man, if you just want like a chill Mexican lager, that Casita lager from Varietal is on point. The Ambush Predator Holy Mountain beer is really good. They have a Fresh Hop Citra varietal IPA on draft. They got beers from Wander, from Headless Mumby Dark Lager. Love that. Then what saved me last time is they have those cans and they have things from Matchless, from Lowercase, more from Holy Mountain. Even bottles from Holy Mountain in there. You got fresh hop beer from Structures going on. I know you're going to be down for that. You got Pink Fuzz. That Fuzz series is delicious. I saw him actually bring out some of the Fuzz series as I was leaving last time I was there, and I was like, no, if I should go back. So yeah, a lot of good stuff. And then of course, you know, they have wine there, and all that good stuff. You know, if you can't have beer, maybe you got a gluten allergy or something, they have other options for you too. So, and then are you planning on getting food, man?
Yes, I am.
Nice.
Yeah.
And you're taking your kids?
I am taking my kids.
Because you can do that now.
Because I can do that now. We just decided, like, this sounds so funny. So, like, Sarah found out that Pretty Fair Beer was one of our sponsors, and then she was like, oh, that's in Ellensburg. I'm like, yeah. And, you know, we haven't been out of town for, I don't know, 5 or 6 weeks. And we were just like, yeah, you know, I don't know. Let's get out of town for a day. And then we started looking like, well, where could we go? And she's like, I don't know. You want to drink a Pretty Fair Beer? And I'm like, yeah, I do. And then we were like, well, let's check out some Airbnbs. And it turns out Ellensburg has some pretty cheap Airbnbs, you know, for a family of 5. So we're staying on like a little farm, basically, where they give you fresh organic eggs to make your own breakfast the next day from the farm. Very nice. We're like, hell yeah, let's go. So I will be out at Pretty Fair Beer at some point. Probably dinner on Saturday would be my guess. So yeah, pretty stoked. I'm pretty stoked about that. Can't wait to get out there.
They'll have something on TV. I don't know if the Kraken have a game on Saturday. You know, I wish I knew the Kraken schedule that well, but I don't.
I'm sure there will be some football.
They have a game on Saturday, so you'll be able to watch a Kraken game there.
Oh,
college
that's
football,
exciting.
all of that. Maybe, you know, watch whatever Pac-12 game between two Northwest teams is going to be on Saturday evening. So with, you know, big, you know, division implications. You know, do some scouting.
Oregon and Washington.
Yes,
that game's at 4:30. Yeah, that's the one.
That may have been what I was talking about.
That may have been. I'd forgotten about that.
Yeah. So yeah, Pretty Fair Beer. Like, I think you're gonna really like it, man. I hope you should give them a heads up. So maybe they'll be around. Yeah,
I will give them a heads up.
Yeah, so that's great. So, and you of course will be going to Pretty Fair Beer, owned and operated, proudly run by Cougs, and you know, where you can watch all the Coug games, even if you decided to do that little trip and the Cougs were playing a game that week, you could go watch the game at Pretty Fair Beer. So yeah, you gotta check it out. I'm excited for you to check it out. Downtown Ellensburg, Pretty Fair Beer. Jeff's gonna go that extra mile into downtown Ellensburg.
Yes, he is.
And check out Pretty Fair Beer. And so, Jeff, what is your Pretty Fair Beer of the episode?
My Pretty Fair Beer of the episode is the Fort George Farmers Annuary IPA, which can art is sort of like everything, right? Like, you know, it's all things being equal, right? You'll pick a beer based on can art. This beer has what looks like a golden doodle dressed as a farmer, and as you know, Craig, I have a golden doodle.
Right.
So that was pretty exciting. But then I also looked up, you know, kind of what the story was. So there's hops all over the can. So I was like, okay, so it must be, you know, some kind of fresh hop or something. It doesn't say, like, the description's on the can. So I had to look it up. So here's what it says, which I'm sure will resonate with you. Roy Farms out of Yakima grows a lot of the delicious hops. And this year, they'll be supplying the hops for Farmers Annuary, the fall seasonal. Andy from Roy Farms and Michael and Brian from Fort George worked to come up with a hop bill that fits that classic West Coast style, but with a few tricks that might make you think it's a New England IPA. So there you go. I didn't catch much New England out of it, but it was a really, really good, like, kind of, and I don't think it qualifies as fresh hop, but it's definitely got that kind of flavor profile. Definitely kind of a West Coast style. Really, really, really tasty. Loved it. Fort George, you know, it's rare that Fort George lets you down. So, yeah, from the can art to the beer, very, very good.
Cool. So my pretty fair beer of the episode is actually one I bought at Pretty Fair Beer. And I think I mentioned it last week, and I thought I had run out of it, but then I found one. So this is Frequency Illusion by Dwinell Country Ales out of Goldendale, and it's a collaboration, part of their collaboration series with Varietal. This is with Varietal, and so it is a Brett conditioned country lager hopped with Nelson Sauvin and Laurel. Made with small batch malted barley, wheat, and triticale from the Pacific Northwest. This beer is unpasteurized, blah, blah, blah. So this is pretty interesting because Brett is a yeast strain, Brettanomyces, that you'll typically see in, well, it was often like if you got it in your clean beer, that was a big mistake. But now they intentionally use it, and it's very commercial yeast. It's used often in saisons and sour beers. It doesn't create sour beers. People often think that, but it actually is just used in sour beers a lot. But it does give a very funky kind of aroma, and it's used in wines as well. And so you get this kind of funky aroma, and that will kind of change with time. It'll get funkier and funkier. So that's why you'll see it in saisons, beers that people can store. So it's a very interesting, and then it's very interesting to use that in a lager. So you have this very clean, dry beer, and then on top of it you have a lager. So it's really just kind of like a really easy drinking saison, and I really enjoy it. I love Brett in beers, and so to have it in kind of this easy sipper is a really nice thing. Dwinell typically does kind of Brett driven saisons and stuff, so it's cool to see them branch out into a lager, work with Varietal, who loves to make lagers. So very cool. I really enjoy this. Very interesting beer. I got the last 4-pack. I bought it after I saw my friend Brad bring it, and so I went back and bought it. I think I already said that last week, but yeah, I was really excited to find another one, so I've been saving it so I could drink it on the podcast as one of my Pretty Fair beers of the episode, because I actually bought it at Pretty Fair Beer in Ellensburg. So very cool.
Yeah, I love it.
Love it. All right, so now that we talked about our beers, I guess we can say cheers to WSU Cougar soccer.
Yeah. Hell yeah. That was awesome weekend.
What a fucking weekend. Holy
yeah.
shit. Could have went
it was
a whole different way.
Yeah, it could have gone very badly, but instead it didn't. Like it's funny, you know, how the narrow margins, you know, that determine soccer matches. So they start the week off with a 1-0 win at Oregon, and Oregon, as we talked about last week, tricky opponent, right? Good opponent, not ranked, not among the sort of elites, the USC, UCLA, Stanford triumvirate at the top of the conference. But Oregon was right there with us, in sort of, you know, what you would sort of maybe think of as kind of that second tier. I know WSU soccer would be super pissed at me if they heard me say that, but it's like, okay, so you got, like, you know, the big time California schools, and then we're sort of fighting to get into that range right away. And so this was an opportunity to separate us. And frankly, they dominated Oregon. I only got to watch really the last 25 minutes or so of the match. But, you know, statistically they dominated shots, dominated possession, dominated shots on goal, like really any stat that you could look at, they dominated. And yet it was 0-0, which was, you know, that's happened multiple times this year where they haven't quite been able to, haven't quite been able to push through, even though they've sort of dominated in every way. And, they're just not, they're not the most clinical team in front of goal. We know that. They've had lots of opportunities this year. We talked about, the games they lost, or, Arkansas State against USC. Like they had chances to win these games, and just weren't clinical enough. They had wide open chances and just couldn't put them in the back of the net. So in this one, again, it kind of looked like more of the same, and then they really put the pressure on at the end of the game, earned a corner, and then, of course, Elise Bennett rises up, puts one in with basically 90 seconds to go in the game. So I think it was 88-30-ish when she scored. She's just, I don't know if it's okay to describe a woman this way, but she is just a beast. And she just... Fine. Okay, good. Thank you. Because, it wasn't much of the cross was kind of interesting on the corner. Like it wasn't really like whipped in. It just, and not like in general, most of their corners are not, but it just kind of floated and it was pretty close to goal. And the keeper, wasn't really very aggressive with it. And Bennett just rose up above everyone, and just, smacked it home with her head. So, just really a tremendous goal, totally deserved victory. Again, like I said, just sort of showing that WSU is a step above where Oregon is at. And this was one of those games where, they really kind of, I think, did need to show that for tournament purposes. And then, on the flip side, Oregon, they needed that win. That would have been a huge win for them to boost their tournament resume. I think they're probably in anyway. But, still, that would have been a really, really big win for them. So they obviously wanted it real bad. And so to go on the road and win that game, to start the weekend by winning that game, was really massive, massive. So
to be, you talking about for tournament resume, I think where we're at now is, especially after you get that win, you're more about, not that if you're in, you're more about where you're going to be seated. And you get that win against, Oregon, I think was around 40. And I think they're sitting in the 40. Well, they lost to UW, that didn't help. So they're at 51, but still to get a road win over number 51 is good. And so that's a good notch to have in your belt. I will say, obviously they have this like local, kind of Oregon broadcaster that does a lot of different sports for Pac-12 Network, and he could not be less enthusiastic about a obvious winning goal with 90 seconds left.
I know. It was so funny.
I guess I'm spoiled by all the British soccer broadcasters I listen to, where it would be like Bennett Shirley has won the game. Like it'd be something that. But it was just like, and it's a goal with 90, in the 89th minute. Like, there's only 90 minutes. Can you can you pump up the enthusiasm here? But obviously, he's a local guy, probably maybe a little homerish for Oregon. Who knows? But it was what a way to win. And then they decided to up the ante on the tension and drama with their game against Oregon State, right?
I missed the first 15 minutes or so.
So I missed a lot.
I missed Oregon State's first goal. I turned it on in time to see our equalizer a few minutes later. So they scored. I turned it on and I was like, shit, it's already 1-0. Like what? Like, wait a minute, what happened? Our defense is impenetrable. What are you talking about? And so then we equalized, and at the time I turned it on, we were putting, tremendous pressure on their goal. And in fact, the goal that we scored was, I wouldn't call it a sloppy goal, but it definitely wasn't the result of a pretty play. It just kind of a bouncing ball in the box. It may have even been laid off. I can't remember for sure, but at any rate, it was just kind of like ball was in the box, it was kind of in the mixer, and eventually someone got their foot on it, and just kind of hammered it into the corner from about, I don't know, 14, 16 yards, something like that. So like, cool. Okay, good. We're even now. Let's go get another goal and everything will be happy. And then about, 5 minutes later, Oregon State comes back and fucking scores again. And it was just like, wait a minute, this isn't how it's supposed to go. And look, the move that they scored on was a really good move. They apparently somehow, for some reason, found a little bit of a soft spot on the left side of our defense. I'm not sure exactly kind of what was going on there, but they just sort of repeatedly were able to get to the end line on the left side of our defense, the right side of their offense, and the girl who carried it forward cut it back, and it was one of those passes where the person you think it's going to ends up not taking it, and they let it roll. And then all of a sudden you're like, oh shit, who's coming, who's coming from the other side? Who's, because the TV usually is kind of tight in there, and you're like, oh, somebody else must be coming. And then sure enough, somebody else came from the other side and just, banged it home from about 10 yards out. Just a really, really nice play by Oregon State. Like could the defense have been better? Sure. Could we have made sure the ball didn't get to the end line? Sure. That obviously all that stuff, but all in all, a really nice play by Oregon. Put Oregon State putting the ball into a dangerous place, and then some really good movement from players off the ball to get into a spot to bang it home. So yeah, good for them. But it also was like, holy shit. And then it kind of felt like, okay, we'll score it again at some point. And man, it took a very long time to get to a point where we would score again.
Yeah, you wait until a penalty is called just as you're going from the 88th to the 89th minute. And then again, with 90 seconds left, you get that equalizer.
Yep.
You get that goal. This time it's Sidney Pulver converts the penalty kick. Very nice, right in the corner after Elise Bennett was fouled in the box. And so, to convert that, all the pressure in the world on her, she converts that, and then
she's automatic, man. She is automatic.
And then I was I can't remember where I was, but you were I was out doing errands or something, and you were messaging me, and then you were like, "Oh my gosh, Elise almost scored off a counterattack." Yeah, immediately after.
Yep, she damn near did. Like I was like, oh my god, and then the angle got just a little tight on her, and she put it in the side net. But it was a legit chance. I mean, at that point, you felt like, and again, momentum. You felt like that was all with WSU, heading into the extra period. And the penalty was completely deserved. The ball was going into the net, and the Oregon State defender slid to try and block it, ended up blocking it with her arm, and for real, she should have been sent off with a red. Like she absolutely blocked a goal. Now you can say it wasn't intentional, but she absolutely had her arm in an unnatural position. She absolutely stopped the ball from going in the net. So I don't know what to say. It should have been a red. Ref decided not to make it a red. Okay, fine. We put the penalty away, and then overtime again. We more or less dominate the chances up until the point at which we score the winning goal. But I really do want to point out, Nadia Cooper, our freshman goalkeeper, is an absolute star. Like, she is unreal, unbelievable. She made a couple of saves in that game. One in overtime where she had to come off her line and come out about 25 yards away from goal and make a sliding tackle to prevent a potential one-on-one situation. And she did it flawlessly, no foul, cleared the ball. And then it really wasn't that much later that we scored the winner. So, tremendous. She's a stud. We score the winner, getting in behind, Margie Detrezio, is looking like a blossoming star, to be honest. She is coming on stronger and stronger and stronger as the season goes on, and definitely is looking like, the heir apparent to, the Morgan Weaver, Elise Bennett, basically line of forwards. She is looking real good. So yeah, man, just like euphoria when they scored that, to go on the road and win, 2 games at Oregon and Oregon State. Oregon State probably had lost like 4 in a row, but probably was better than. I mean, we knew they had a talent. At least they beat Stanford earlier in the year, so they obviously are not devoid of talent. So to go on the road and win both those games, however narrow the margin, really impressive accomplishment, which obviously was recognized by jumping them up to 18 in the poll. So
and going from the 40s in RPI up to 24.
Yep.
So as we said,
jump.
Obviously they're very solidly in the tournament now for sure. They'll return after missing in the spring season. And they're now sitting third in the conference. Because of their because USC also swept the weekend, they can't catch up for the conference title anymore, but they can finish third, which or they could even
jump to second.
And which would be a hell of an accomplishment. And they'll be in the tournament again. And it's funny that even when their defense finally gave up some goals, they still found a way to win. And now they have Washington, and I know they want to beat them after Washington has beat them a couple times in a row. Yep. So they'll be gunning for that. And Washington, I don't think they've done well in the conference season, but I don't know if they're actually in line for any sort of tournament, because they do have a losing record currently. So
does not seem like it.
Yeah. So. But still, obviously, they'll be wanting to beat the Cougs. I'm sure they know that they didn't beat the Cougs for like almost 20 years. But love to see them get that win. Great way to finish the season. And that comes up on Friday night.
It's on Friday.
Yeah, on Friday night up in that's tempting. Up on that campus up in Seattle.
If I was not already going to the Eagles with my dad at the new arena on Friday, I would be lugging my entire family up to go to that game, and we'd be screaming our heads off for the Cougs. So
nice.
Alas.
All right. Well, so yeah, soccer obviously had a great weekend. Volleyball was so close to picking up a huge win at UCLA, up 2-1, and then just UCLA kind of took control, especially with its hitting in the second and third sets. I swear they didn't miss hit a single kill attempt. Like, it was just they were just on point finishing that game out, but they worked their asses off to get to 2-1. Both teams were playing pretty even, and then UCLA just kind of pulled away. But they came back and they swept USC to finish the weekend, so they're still in a good spot. They're still ranked. They're doing well. So yeah, that's kind of they didn't get the big win. They beat the team they're supposed to. It's kind of like a stand pat weekend. Probably hurts their chances for a conference title quite a bit that they didn't beat UCLA. But
it does. But you look at the standings; they're only 2 games back, and volleyball's season goes on quite a bit longer than soccer's.
Mm-hmm.
So they've still got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 games remaining.
Yeah.
And their schedule is not particularly daunting. They play Arizona State. Those are 2 teams that I think they already beat them on the road. Yes, swept them on the road. And then at Cal, at Stanford is a tough one. But then they've got Oregon State at home. Already beat both of those. And then at Utah and at Washington. That at Washington game could be, fairly huge because Washington is currently in second place. Utah currently tied for third. So, yeah, I mean, I don't know, man. It's not the loss of UCLA hurts for sure. You're 2 games back, but you're not. It's not inconceivable.
Yeah, 2 games back, and now they've lost to UCLA twice.
Yeah,
so
but it's not inconceivable.
Yeah,
it's not crazy.
Both 2 heartbreaking losses.
Yes.
That's the only way they lose. It's just like absolutely painful, heartbreaking losses. But yeah, so yeah, they got in Pullman this weekend. Arizona State. Would expect them to win both those. And then, so, if you're in Pullman, check them out. Should be fun. So volleyball, still cooking, all that good stuff. And then, next week we're gonna have basketball, men's basketball to talk about, which is really exciting.
Yes.
Obviously, I wish men's basketball would have had this like super early exhibition like women's basketball did, because I want to see them.
I know.
I want to see these guys play.
I know. I'm ready. I think we're all ready, but we are going to hold off on a formal-ish preview until our next podcast. So y'all going to have to wait for that one.
Yeah, since we don't have a game to talk about this weekend, our next podcast will be just a basketball season preview for.
And that seems to make sense
for men's hoops. We could probably dive into some women's hoops too as well.
Heck yeah,
I have seen them. We did we talked about quite a bit about them. Little bit of a preview them when we talked about their exhibition game last week. But they'll have another exhibition game and they both start on Tuesday. You could see both teams on Tuesday in Beasley. WSU women host San Jose State at 7, and the men play Alcorn State at noon, because that's a part of a 24-hour or whatever thing that I don't know if it's 24 hours, but it's kind of an all-day thing that the Pac-12 is doing. So I'm excited to get that going. I'm throwing around the idea to maybe go to Pullman a day early for the Arizona football game and go there. I'm just check it, cleared it. I've asked for a lot this football season, so and I'll probably keep asking for more during the basketball season. So we will see if that works out. If not, I'll be happy to go to the football game still.
Either way, you win. Either way,
I win. I'll go to Pullman anyway.
Yeah.
And so, wow. Someone requested a 7-hour podcast, but I think we're coming in just under the wire.
Not going to be 7 hours. That's all right.
No. But hey, if you like us, you should subscribe to us. And if you really like us, you should give us a 5-star rating, and you should leave a nice review. And then you should also tell your friends about us. Say, hey, I like this cute podcast. You should also listen to our colleague Michael's most recent episode where he interviews someone that you have heard of, WSU head basketball coach Kyle Smith. So you should definitely check that out. That will be in this same feed, and if you're subscribed, then you will get that. You will have gotten that delivered to your podcast device. Do all that stuff. If you want to follow us on socials, I am at the Craig Powers on Twitter and at Craig W. Powers on Instagram. Jeff is at PodVS Everyone on Twitter. If you want to send us an email, podcast versus everyone at gmail.com. Send us your questions, your comments. We did get a question a couple weeks ago. It's not super relevant at this point, but I'll throw it to you, Jeff. Dave asks us, hi guys, against BYU, did we see the tsunami rush package or whatever those 4 badasses, Stone, Taylor, Jackson, Robinson would be called? And do you think we'll see it against ASU? I don't think we saw it very much against BYU because there weren't many situations that dictated it.
Yeah.
Got
to be a pretty obvious passing situation.
Yeah. We definitely saw it against ASU. We probably won't see it a ton against Oregon because they run the ball a lot. But tsunami rush is interesting. We'll take that into consideration.
Like that. Yep, I can dig that.
If anyone else has any ideas on what to call our rush package with Ron Stone, Willie Taylor, Brennan Jackson, and Quentin Roth. What that should be called?
I think it's just Quinn.
Quinn Roth. Maybe it's Quinn is short for Quentin. No, Quinn Roth. Yeah, let us know. We would like to. That'd be fun. But Jeff, I have no other babbling to do. So go Cougs.
Go Cougs, Craig. Black Lives Matter.
Black Lives Matter.
Get fucking vaccinated.
Do it.